1, 2, 3. We're not crazy!
Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 awful truths behind the most famous conspiracy theories.
He was not killed by Oswald. We know that.
For this list, we'll be looking under the surface of some of the biggest conspiracies circulating the internet to reveal the real-life damage they can lead to. Is there a conspiracy redacted from this list? Let us know in the comments below. Number 10. Flat Earth. Scientists have known that the Earth was round for over 2,000 years. Ancient Greek astronomer Eratosthenes calculated a relatively accurate measure of the Earth's circumference. Science has provided centuries of observable data ever since, from Magellan's circumnavigation to satellite photos. Still, the belief in a flat Earth persists.
Everybody here can agree on absolutely one thing, which is it is not a globe.
While the practical harms of flat earthism are negligible, there is a real danger. The more it spreads, the more it fosters distrust in empirical science and observable fact.
Some flat earthers imagine the Earth looks like a snow globe, round but not sphere.
If science is an agenda-driven field, facts are no different than beliefs. Flat earthers are rarely persuadable, even when they accidentally prove themselves wrong. It's a dark road that often leads to other anti-science ideas like anti-vaxxers.
Pretty much everyone here, though, is kind of a conspiracy theorist.
I'd say that's a common trait, but I think there's a little bit of conspiracy theorists in all of us.
Number 9. Violent incidents are false flags. Since the Sandy Hook Elementary tragedy in 2012, conspiracists have glommed even more onto many incidents of mass fire-related violence in America. Alex Jones went on his popular radio show InfoWars and suggested that the victims were crisis actors.
I mean, not just one, but a bunch of parents doing this.
Their family members were then harassed and threatened. Tens of thousands of people began to believe that many, if not all, incidents of mass violence were fake.
It's a false narrative, fake, never happened.
And we'll show you how that never happened.
Others believed they were false flags meant to justify gun confiscation. The spread of this theory has seemingly led to surges in gun purchases.
Seth, you get it, I get it, most of us get it, but that audience, that hardcore audience that he's attracted at YouTube, they don't get it.
As of 2023, there are 120 guns for every 100 people in the US. In 2022, Alex Jones lost several lawsuits by Sandy Hook families and was ordered to pay hundreds of millions of dollars in restitution.
Question 3A, $1.5 million, and question 3B, $500,000.
Number 8. QAnon. In 2016, a gunman walked into Comet Pizza in Washington, D.C. This restaurant, he believed, was home to a democratic sex trafficking ring. Since then, Pizzagate evolved into QAnon, a movement started by an anonymous supposed Trump official or someone with links to the former president at least. Since its inception, QAnon has been an example of horseshoe theory in action.
It's creeping into the mainstream of political conversation.
People on the far left and far right were roped in thanks to their desire to protect children. It's a gateway theory that leads to anti-Semitism, anti-vaxxers, and white nationalism.
Some of these families feel they've lost their relatives to a cult.
In 2022 and 2023, anti-LGBTQ+ sentiment within the movement began to grow stronger, with politicians and activists accusing gay and trans people of grooming, fomenting hatred. The early 2020s have seen laws being passed all over the country stripping LGBTQ+ Americans of their rights.
That appears to be the case in Florida, and the basis behind the state's so-called Don't Say Gay bill, which prohibits the discussion in class of sexual orientation.
Number 7. Who really assassinated JFK? When you look at cinema history, there was a significant transition in the 1960s and 1970s. Traditional narratives exploded, and heroes were ground down by the machinery of mysterious, powerful forces. This reflected the broader cultural decline of trust in American institutions. That deterioration had many parents. Arguably, one of the first was the assassination of JFK.
There are lots of theories. It was Castro, the Mafia, the Soviets, the CIA, you name it.
Presidential assassinations are rare. Kennedy's was the first in over 60 years, and the first in the era of television. The Zapruder film put it out there for the whole world to see.
Nothing was left to chance. He could not be allowed to escape alive.
When Lee Harvey Oswald claimed he didn't shoot anybody and was later killed by Jack Ruby, conspiracies abounded. Explanations of the assassination rang hollow, and mistrust in the government story spread around the country.
Other dead-end theories over the years include this Secret Service agent with a rifle in the motorcade slipped and shot the president, or that a gunman fired from the curb-level storm drain.
Number 6. The 2020 election. The 2020 U.S. presidential election was one of the most contentious in modern history. Though former President Trump's own government called it the most secure ever, Trump himself promulgated misinformation.
If you count the legal votes, I easily win. If you count the illegal votes, they can try to steal the election from us.
The false claim that the election was stolen led to a violent insurrection on January 6, 2021. The attack caused ripples of damage across the country and divided many Americans about what happened. The opinions are mostly divided between the January 6th committee version versus the Tucker Carlson version of the events of the day. Families in many communities are facing irreparable schisms. Hundreds of law enforcement officers were forced to deal with the physical and psychological aftermath of the attack. At least 1,000 people, according to the Department of Justice, were arrested.
3 active duty U.S. Marines under arrest for illegally entering the Capitol on January 6th.
Number 5. An inside job. Back in the day, conspiracy theorists would have to print a conspiracy newsletter at home and mail it to their dozen subscribers. Today, thanks to algorithms and social media, lies are able to actually travel the world before the truth gets out of bed. The attack on September 11, 2001 was one of the first major world events where news spread online.
Today, we've had a national tragedy. 2 airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center.
As a result, 9/11 trutherism benefited greatly from the internet. People shared their beliefs in emails and web forums. Some believed it to be a false flag operation, an inside job. Others blamed Israel. Though no violent civilian action came from conspiracy theories directly, the communities and bonds that formed online laid the groundwork for modern hubs like 8chan, now known as 8kun.
The lack of any demolition evidence in the debris pile at Ground Zero also undermines this theory.
Number 4. COVID-19. At first, conspiracies about COVID-19 focused on the virus itself. For months, people believed that the entire thing was a hoax.
COVID-19 has created a perfect storm for conspiracy theorists.
Even as infection and death rates surged, millions refused to believe that any of it was true. Some refused to believe the truth even as they lay dying in the hospital. The conspiracies then shifted to the vaccines. Some claims that the vaccine was a way for Bill Gates to implant tracking chips.
That he would use the vaccine rollout to mass implant Americans with microchips to track their movements.
Many turns to unproven treatments like ivermectin. That often led to death either from untreated COVID or the homebrewed treatments themselves. Thanks to conspiracy theories, millions of Americans absolutely refuse to get vaccinated. According to one analysis, almost 250,000 people in the U.S. likely died unnecessarily from COVID-19.
There's probably a flu going around getting people sick, but I believe the motives of the world at the moment doesn't make sense at all.
Number 3. Jewish people control the media, the banks, and the world. Anti-Semitic tropes are particularly insidious. Current iterations were pushed by both Tsarist Russia and Nazi Germany.
Powerful Jewish people plot to take over the world, secretly start wars, manipulate banks and media, and form an eternal one-world government. Obviously, this is an insane racist fantasy.
Modern stereotypes are over a century old and are often culturally entrenched. People don't always understand why seemingly positive stereotypes about Jewish people can be harmful. But those tropes are inextricably linked to the idea that Jewish people control the media and the banks.
The lies of the protocols spread so widely that its central idea of a secret evil group ruling the planet is now fairly common.
Virtually every conspiracy theory about a secret cabal ruling the world has Jewish people playing a central role. Anti-Semitic rhetoric and violence are on the rise all over the world. Half of the world's Jewish population live in the US, making it an acute crisis in America. Anti-Semitism has also seemingly become part of Islamist extremism and white nationalist movements.
As anti-Semitism has evolved, so have its methods and targets. According to the FBI, anti-Semitic attacks consistently account for more than half of all religion-based hate crimes.
Number 2. The government and Big Med are targeting a certain demographic. Black people in the US have endured centuries of oppression and neglect by both the government and medical establishment. Tools like redlining, Jim Crow, and segregation were used to prevent access to wealth and good health. Understandably, this has led to perennial mistrust.
When it comes to things like conspiracy theories around health or more social issues, that vein of racism is still present.
This compounds the damage caused by the lack of investment in Black communities. From the crack epidemic to COVID-19, misinformation and partial truths linger. When the vaccines came out, for example, it elicited memories of the Tuskegee experiments. Thousands of Black Americans fell ill or died unnecessarily because they weren't vaccinated. To this day, trolls and bots spread disinformation online to keep people of color distrustful of and disconnected from the levers of power.
So this mistrust of authority has been building, and it's paved the way for the COVID-19 conspiracies in the Black community now.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. The Great Replacement Theory. In 1973, a French author wrote a dystopian novel titled The Camp of the Saints. It detailed mass migration from developing countries to Europe and North America. This migration destroyed the white character of those Western countries.
Great Replacement conspiracy theory has been doing the rounds since around 1916, when it was proposed by the American lawyer and eugenicist Madison Grant.
It has since become a manifesto of sorts for white supremacists. Its premise has morphed into the modern Great Replacement theory. Proponents believe that a cabal of elites and Jewish people deliberately bring in immigrants of color to dilute white power and erase white identity. This conspiracy theory has spread like wildfire online and on right-wing media.
There are people who are pushing this hatred on these young people, indoctrinating their minds.
It's often found in the manifestos of ideologically driven perpetrators of mass firearms-related violence. The 2018 Tree of Life Synagogue and 2022 Buffalo shootings were both motivated at least partially by the Great Replacement theory.
This attack is just the latest in a series of violent acts connected to each other by this conspiracy theory, known as replacement theory.